When you reach the age of 70, one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is the freedom to stop proving your worth. After many years of navigating life, working, raising children, maintaining an image, striving to be seen as a good person in the eyes of others, you've accumulated enough wisdom to understand that you no longer need to please anyone to feel worthy. At this age, you are no longer bound by society's shoulds and musts. You no longer need to make an effort to fit in at social gatherings or events just to be recognized as still active or still youthful. If you prefer quiet, you have every right to stay home, brew a cup of tea, read a book, or simply sit in silence watching the clouds drift by. You don't need anyone's approval to feel that choice is valuable. The relationships you once maintained out of politeness because you didn't want to refuse or feared being thought distant can now gently fade away. It's not that you're indifferent or selfish, rather, you are choosing to curate what truly brings peace to your soul. And that's not only reasonable, it's something to be cherished. No more trying to impress, no more acting to fit in, no more striving to be the best version of yourself in front of others. Now you can live authentically, live lightly, and that is the greatest success of all. You don't need to prove anything, just live true to yourself, and that's enough. Peace and quiet are priceless. When we are young, we often believe that a lively life, filled with friends, packed schedules, and constant activity, is proof that we are living right. But one day, after having weathered life's ups and downs, you suddenly realize the most precious thing isn't noise and excitement, but the stillness within your soul. You no longer feel drawn to shallow conversations or noisy gatherings that lack genuine connection. Messages sent out of obligation, calls made just to be polite, these slowly become burdens rather than sources of joy. The exhaustion doesn't come from activity itself, but from things that no longer align with your spirit. And so you begin to value silence. An afternoon without the ring of a phone, a morning with nothing but you and a warm cup of tea. It's not loneliness, it's tranquility. It's not avoidance, it's self-healing. Silence becomes the space you return to in order to recharge and to truly listen to yourself. The less you feel the need to keep up appearances, the less gossip, the less anxiety over what others think, the more time you have to live true to who you are. You have the right to choose peace over noise, to turn down a gathering that doesn't bring joy and instead spend the afternoon reading a book or taking a slow walk around the garden. This is not withdrawal, it's a return to yourself, to what genuinely brings you calm and lightness of being. Peace doesn't come from loud laughter in a crowd, but from the serenity within. And when you find that, you begin to truly live each moment of your later years with presence and wholeness. Fewer friends, less heartache. Youth often teaches us that the more friends we have, the happier our lives will be. But as you move into your 60s and 70s, you slowly come to realize not every relationship is a true friendship. Some people once entered your life with great excitement, only to fade away when you stopped initiating plans, when you were no longer convenient for them. There are calls you always had to make first, messages you always had to send first. And then you realize you've been maintaining a one-sided relationship. When we're young, it's easy to expect others to care for us the way we care for them. But as we grow older, we understand the more expectations we have, the more disappointment we invite. Not everyone is sincere. Not everyone will stay. And that's okay. Because when you begin to let go of shallow connections, you're not losing anything. You're simply reclaiming peace for yourself. You no longer need to check your phone daily to see who messaged. You no longer feel sad if someone forgets your birthday, because you understand happiness doesn't lie in being remembered by others, but in remembering to care for yourself. Emotional independence, the ability to stay centered regardless of others' words or presence, is a priceless gift. You're no longer easily hurt by indifference or silence. Instead, you feel a quiet freedom, a gentle peace that comes from no longer clinging to fading relationships. A true friend, if you have one, is a beautiful thing. But if not, you still have yourself, and you are the one who's always there, every day, sincerely and completely. Time becomes more precious than ever. When we're young, we often believe that time is limitless. We keep chasing appointments, gatherings, and endless responsibilities. But as the years go by, time gradually becomes more valuable than ever. As we enter later adulthood, especially beyond our 60s and 70s, we begin to realize that time is not as long as we once thought. Each day holds its own worth. Every moment is meaningful. And one of the most important things you can learn is how to use your time wisely and selectively. There's no longer a need to attend gatherings you don't truly want to be part of. No more going to parties or events just to be polite. You have every right to say no to things that don't bring you joy or nourish your spirit. Instead, devote your time to what you genuinely love, activities that bring peace and comfort to your soul. It could be a good book that lets you immerse yourself in stories and life lessons, or a slow morning walk in the park, breathing in the fresh air and feeling the stillness around you. Maybe it's a fragrant cup of tea, enjoyed in the quiet of your own space as you reflect on life. Writing can also be a wonderful outlet to release emotions, preserve beautiful memories, or note down life's lessons. You might write about what you've lived through, what you've learned, or simply the gentle thoughts of your current days. You don't always have to do something big or loud. Sometimes just sitting still and being present allows you to realize that the most important thing is to live fully in each moment. Time is the most precious asset we have, and the best way to use it is to spend it on the things that make you feel at peace and truly happy. True friendship begins in the later stages of adulthood, especially as we enter the final chapters of life. We often tend to measure our worth through external relationships. However, one of the most important lessons you can learn is that true friendship begins within yourself. When we're young, it's easy to believe that we need others to feel happy, to prove we are important and loved. But as the years go by, you start to realize that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. In fact, loneliness only truly exists when you are disconnected from yourself. The quiet moments and stillness in life become precious opportunities to get to know who you really are. You can sit alone, let your thoughts wander, and reflect freely without the pressure of anyone's expectations or judgments. Happiness doesn't come from constantly being surrounded by people. It comes from inner connection, from understanding and loving yourself. When you learn to appreciate who you are, you no longer crave constant validation or affection from others. You begin to realize that you are your own best friend. Loving yourself is not always easy, especially when you've spent a lifetime seeking approval from the outside world. But once you begin to embrace self-love, something magical happens. You become more free, more peaceful than ever before. You're no longer dependent on someone's presence or acceptance to feel whole. You find quietness, completeness, and serenity within your own soul. There's no more need to worry about pleasing others or maintaining relationships out of obligation. You are free to live the way you truly want, to focus on what genuinely matters to you. When you know how to love yourself, you no longer seek validation from anyone else. True friendship, at its core, is a journey inward, and that is the most beautiful experience you can have. And surely, in those calm and quiet moments of life, you will discover that once you become your own friend, you will never feel lonely again. Letting go helps you live a more meaningful life. In life, we often maintain relationships out of habit, a sense of safety, or fear of being judged. We worry that if we stop staying in touch with people who no longer bring us joy or positive growth, we'll be seen as cold or distant. However, an important truth is this: letting go of unhealthy relationships is not abandonment. It is an act of self respect. Many times, we keep certain connections because of a sense of obligation or the comfort they once provided, even if they no longer bring happiness or satisfaction. The phone calls, the meetups, the relationships we maintain out of politeness or duty can slowly become burdens. They consume our time and energy, resources that could otherwise be spent on things that truly matter. This emotional drain can leave us feeling tired and disconnected rather than fulfilled. Letting go of exhausting relationships gives you space to reclaim yourself. When you stop engaging in interactions that bring only tension, you gain time for reflection, rest, and rediscovering joy in the small things. You become free to do what you genuinely enjoy without worrying about pleasing someone else or living up to unrealistic expectations. True joy can only begin when you dare to let go. Once you free yourself from relationships that no longer serve you, you can focus on what truly matters: your personal passions, forgotten dreams, and even the peace that lies within your own heart. Letting go does not mean isolating yourself or closing off from the world. It means building a life that's meaningful with relationships that bring real value. It's about recognizing that sometimes the lightness of living unburdened by draining connections is what brings you the truest form of freedom and happiness. When you choose to let go, you don't just release yourself from unsuitable ties, you also create the opportunity to rediscover who you are. You reconnect with your values, your interests, and the kind of life you truly want to live, one that is intentional and fulfilling. Remember, letting go is an act of honoring yourself, and in doing so, life becomes more meaningful than ever.